Protests are sweeping across Asia, and their leaders are coming from a new generation.
So me and my friend, we were just chatting, should we do the protest or something?
Is it all part of the natural running of democracies?
One generation is so active because they are becoming to the age.
Or has democracy failed to deliver?
In the eyes of the youth, they are being alienated from their own society.
It's the 15th of September. I've just arrived in Nepal with the Inside team. A few days ago, Kathmandu was on fire, literally and metaphorically, as youth-led protests ousted their government. There's an odd sense of calm as the military had re-established order. Children are returning to school for the first time in a week. But the streets are still dotted with the signs of chaos here just a week ago.
Here in Kathmandu, the military has returned to the barracks and the city is again in civilian control. There is a sense that people are trying to get back to their normal life. Now, we're of course in a more heavily guarded area. That's because right behind me, that's the Prime Minister's residence. So you could see the parts that was burned down during the protest, which directly led the former Prime Minister to flee. The people who are guarding this compound, they are Nepalese police, but even the police, most of them are no longer carrying rifles. They're just using shields and batons, in their case, really bamboo sticks.
Even as I'm here in Nepal, there are ongoing student-led protests in the Philippines. And just a couple of weeks ago, Jakarta was brought to a standstill by youth demonstrations. There's a sense that Asia's Gen Zs are angry, and I wonder if there are common threads in their dissent.
Devastating.
In Nepal, Gen Z protesters targeted the symbols of power like the parliament building, and others that seemed a little less obvious.
I've only actually just noticed out of the window that's the Hilton Hotel that got burned down during the protest. What was that about?
That was because of political and business nexus. So there is a rumor that the ex-prime minister's son had a stake in the Hilton, and there was a rumor. We do not know.
In some places, they call it crony capitalism.
Capitalism, and some countries, they also call it the kleptocracy. It's a huge gap.
Na Bahadur Thapa is an economist who worked at Nepal's central bank. He witnessed the carnage in real time as the dramatic scenes of the destruction were broadcast throughout the world.
This should not have happened. It is unfortunate that the tourism sector is hard hit. That is worries us. There could have been other ways of correcting the problem. This is not the way. This doesn't give the good message to the people at large, especially foreign investors.
The protest started relatively peacefully, a rally against a social media ban. It then snowballed into large-scale demonstrations against corruption. But when security forces opened fire on protesters on the 8th of September, the mood turned violent. As we arrive in Kathmandu, the death toll is still being tallied. The latest figure stands at 72, including scores of protesters shot and killed by security forces. For a week now, families would gather outside Kathmandu's main hospital, waiting for their bodies to be returned. 22-year-old Rase Kariwada had just finished university when he joined the anti-government protests last week. His death was captured on live stream.
2 bullets, one One is the chest, one is the spinal. It's the 2 bullets. Mother saying, "Don't go, baby, don't go." To protest, and he's telling to mother, "No, mom. All people are going. I'm going, just looking and then come back." But he's never coming back.
Suddenly, the silence breaks as families are called in one by one to identify the bodies. The coffins, draped in the national flag of Nepal, are loaded onto trucks for a march around the city. The interim government has agreed to give the victims state honors with a vow to carry out their wishes for a better Nepal. But exactly what dreams did the Gen Z protesters have for their country? I'm revisiting Rase Kariwada's family towards the end of his 13-day Hindu burial rituals. His sister, also a Gen Z, is one of the millions of Nepalese working abroad. She had just returned from Australia for the Dashim Festival, a religious celebration of the victory of good over evil. But now she finds herself at a funeral.
So 2018, we went to Fun Park together, and he liked to do all this kind of pose. He was a posy boy.
Yeah, and he was a fan of Pink Floyd.
Pink Floyd, Nirvana, we both. And I was fan of Messi, and he was fan of Ronaldo. So every World Cup, he used to get jersey of Ronaldo, and I used to get Messi.
Why do you think your brother went to the protest?
He wanted to change the country, because I tried to encourage him to come to Australia for a very long time. And he said he wanted to do something here because he likes Nepal. He liked to listen Nepalese music as well. And he liked to stay here with my family. So he wanted to do something here, and he couldn't do because of all these corrupted people. So this was the time where everyone tried to stood up, Gen Zs, and they went to protest to change the country, to change unemployment.
Change. That was a common demand as August and September saw protests across parts of Asia, all led by Gen Zs.
Basically, it's dissatisfaction in the status quo, and particularly dissatisfaction with the elites. We can sense that probably in the eyes of the youth, they are being alienated from their own societies, and their voices are not being heard.
Back in Nepal, Rashila realizes she will never hear the voice of her brother again.
Still, I can't believe. He's still in my house. I feel like he's calling my name. He's saying, "Let's go there, let's go there, let's do a tattoo, let's go eat momos." It's still very hard. I feel like I'm dreaming, and I can wake up from this dream.
Do you feel what your brother gave his life for would it come true?
I'm having a positive vibes at the moment, but if anything goes wrong, if those politicians came back, then I swear to God, I'll come from there and I'll join the protest. I'm happy to die for myself as well.
Protests are very common in Nepal. But for Bipin Adhikari, a Nepalese constitutional expert, this time felt different.
Because the youths who were involved in the demonstrations were the educated people, very young, fresh graduates, maybe the professionals who just have started, and the young people still doing A-level. Most of them were not related to politics, not affiliated to any political organization, but then they really thought that Nepal is a good place, it can be improved, and the political lot is responsible for, the plight of the country now.
By and large, why do the youths in Nepal and elsewhere in Asia feel that the status quo has failed them? Thousands of Nepalese Gen Zs went onto the street and ousted the country's government, in 2 days. The stunning speed of change shocked the world. Now, as Nepal reckons with the carnage, the youths are again organizing among themselves, this time to clean up the mess. Here, a group called Nepal Youth Club is repainting a damaged police station and posing for Instagram. Let's not forget, they're Gen Zs after all.
What made you guys want to come out to repair things? A police station, no less. I thought you guys hated the police.
Some criminals burned it. That was not the part of our protest. So we were trying to fix the police station because we want the criminals to be in jail, and unless and until the police stations will be completely renovated, criminals can't stay there.
Our goal was not to burn everything down. It went too far, and we realized that this was not the way it was supposed to happen. So many of us came together to start rebuilding things because we need them for the country to function properly, right?
Which one of you went out to the protest?
Me. I went there because I was just fed up of the way this country was running and just wanted to contribute to a possible change. So my graduation is in December, our 4th semester. I applied for internship. After applying for, let's say, 20, 30 or 40 positions, I finally got one.
नेपालमा चाहिँ 10,000 को काम पाएर पनि हामीले चाहिँ त्यो गुजारा गर्न सकिदैन के हामी त कि त पोलिटिकल पार्टीहरुसँग कि त उनीहरुको फ्यामिलीहरुसँग हामी मिसेको हुनुपर्छ नभए चाहिँ हामीले इजिली जब पाउन चाहिँ गाह्रो हुन्छ मैले पनि ट्राई गरे थिए आई ट्राई टु अप्लाई अनदर कन्ट्री बट यो रिजल्ट चाहिँ राम्रो आएन
Nepal's sluggish economy has long had trouble absorbing its own workforce. Traditionally, many Nepalese worked in richer countries, often doing menial jobs that the locals do not want. In total, an estimated 3.7 million Nepalese live and work abroad. The money they send home constitutes more than a quarter of the GDP. But ever since the COVID pandemic, many destination countries have tightened visa rules to appease anti-immigration sentiments at home. And so, Nepal's youth unemployment rate exceeded 20% in 2024.
When you come to see the young side, so they were really afraid that what will be with my life. And that's the main reasons. And the political parties, they didn't respect or they were not showing the much concern with the fear. So they were not able to provide what is the new growth strategy of country, where we will get the new jobs, and how our economic structure will be transformed.
This brings echoes of the Arab Spring, when jobless youths rose up and toppled governments in the Arab world one after another. But the Arab nations back then were all run by authoritarian rulers. While Nepal had in 1991 transitioned from a monarchy to a democracy, with multiple parties competing in elections. But that just led to patronage politics.
So they were just focused on the rhetoric ideology. My ideology is better. The founder of my party were better. But despite that fact, what's important is that all major political parties had their sister organization in education sector, health sector, every sector of the society. So they were dominating each part of the society. And people needs to go to the political parties to get a better service from government. So, and I often call it partycracy. This is not democracy. Those who were not inside the political parties were dissatisfied with this structure.
यस्तो गर न म भिडियो एक्सन भन्छु हैन बोतल एउटा बोतल एउटा मग and then the kitchen.
So the ordinary young Nepalese are left to fend for themselves. Gen Z newlyweds Ashish Katuwo and Prakriti Dungo started their bamboo handicrafts business online a year and a half ago. They now sell directly to more than 100 customers in 5 countries.
Let's push this. Okay. How does new people find us? Of course, they come from social media.
We started our Instagram page, Facebook page, TikTok.
So in a way, social media gave you the economic opportunities that the government was never able to provide.
Yes, it did.
Although frustration towards the government has been building among Nepal's Gen Zs for a long time, an attack on social media finally drove them to the streets. On the 4th of September, the Nepalese government blocked access to 26 social media apps, including Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and China's WeChat, citing the tech firms' refusals to pay a digital tax in the country.
We were so hopeless when all of this happened. We used to get more than 10 orders per day. It dropped down to 1-2 orders.
So we got scared that if this goes on, that it will become difficult to repay our loan. So from individual point of view, when the government banned the social media, we felt like, okay, they are maybe trying to ban our freedom of speech. Maybe we are being more vocal on social media, maybe that's why the government banned it.
That suspicion runs deep among Nepal's youths. Right before the ban, the hashtag nepobabies was trending in the country's social media space, used by Gen Zs to expose the lavish lifestyles of politicians' children.
They are spending a lot. Their life is extravagant. They go to France and so many places for vacation. They spend tons of money on Louis Vuitton. I saw one TikTok video where one guy had made a Christmas tree of Louis Vuitton bags. How can a normal person afford to buy Louis Vuitton and make a Christmas tree out of it? We are working day and night just to give them all the privileges that they are openly, publicly posting on social media. It's basically unfair.
We have encountered corruption in this country from all sides of institutions. Like if you want to register a company, if you want to get a marriage certificate.
You have to give money to get a marriage certificate.
We went to get married. We invited all our friends. We went on 10 o'clock. And we went there, and I think by the time we got a single document, it took us 10 hours? 10 hours, I think. If we had bribed, it would have been done in 1 hour.
Before the nepobabies hashtag reached Nepal, it was already trending in the Philippines. In August, Reddit users shamed children of politicians and contractors who flaunted their luxury purchases. Some of their parents were implicated in a corruption scandal involving unfinished flood control projects.
A lot of Filipinos were get angry about it because imagine we're drowning, our life is we're sacrificing lives in massive flooding within our communities, and these politicians, public officials, and contractors funded by the tax of Filipino people, their luxurious lifestyle, which is really, really public, from TikTok to like mainstream media as well.
Even as Nepalese Gen Zs overthrew the government, their Philippine counterparts also took to the streets, staging demonstrations in multiple cities throughout September. University student Kaya Menezes helped organize one of these marches.
If we will sum all the corrupted peso in this flood control projects alone, it's like 1 billion pesos every day. Imagine. So that's how big and massive this corruption is. I think our future were stolen from us.
Likewise, youth protesters marched in Indonesia in August, at a time when youth unemployment is 3 times the national average, at around 16%. The government had planned to raise the pay for legislators. The youths denounced this as a sign of the elites enriching themselves at their expense.
Kalau kita melihat dari sisi kebijakan pemerintah, sekarang kebijakan pemerintah ini tidak mengarahkan pada kelas menengah, tidak mengarahkan pada golongan muda atau angkatan muda, Gen Z dan sebagainya. Karena ya Gen Z ini kan sebagai penduduk yang mayoritas, tapi pemerintah kita tidak mendengar, tidak meng-approve dari usulan dari masyarakat yang pada akhirnya membuat ya masyarakat Gen Z, middle class kita menjadi marah.
If you look at the discourses in the West, for instance, in the United States or even in Europe, there's a lot of publications, a lot of academic writings that talk about inequality and how certain groups in power are monopolizing resources. The experiences in the West are also found here in Southeast Asia, and even more so because there is no room to make these changes, because certain groups, certain families, political families are dominating the scene.
Indonesian Gen Zs popularized the use of the Jolly Roger flag from Japanese manga series One Piece. This symbol of defiance was later adopted by the protesters in Nepal, the Philippines, and Timor-Leste. About 1,000 Gen Zs demonstrated for 3 days in the Timorese capital, Dili. They eventually forced the government to take back a plan to buy new cars for MPs and cancel the pensions for retired lawmakers.
There was evidence that actually protests in one country can inspire people in other countries to commit similar protests. And there was an important role of social media in spreading out and inspiring people.
But before Nepal and Southeast Asia, with little international attention, one Asian country's youths had succeeded in changing their government: Mongolia. How the youths in Nepal toppled their government made headlines in September. But elsewhere, another youth-led protest brought change to their country earlier this year. For weeks, Mongolian youths held anti-corruption demonstrations in Subatar Square in Ulaanbaatar. Eventually, this forced Prime Minister Lusam Namsri Oyurdain to step down after a vote of no confidence. What precipitated the protests sounds familiar when I visit Mongolia, echoing the similar grievances voiced in Nepal and Southeast Asia.
So there was this ever-widening gap between what youth was promised, especially by ex-Prime Minister Oyurdain, how much trust they invested in him, and what he was actually delivering. Now we know that his son's lavish lifestyle was exposed on social media. His fiance's consumption, like expensive bags, and that a helicopter proposal was brought to attention of the public. So I think there was this underlying fundamental discontent among the youth.
In Nepal, the Gen Z protests were considered leaderless. But in Mongolia, if you ask, everyone points to Wulamsaihan Otkan, a 24-year-old KOL or key opinion leader, for starting the protest and leading it to the finish. On more mellow days, away from Subatar Square, this is what Wulamsaihan does for a living, vlogging about films and funky tech startups.
You operate as a KOL. And how did you get involved in politics?
So it's really interesting because when the news got and
This is the news about the Prime Minister's son.
Yes. And I felt so actually humiliated to be quiet about it. So me and my friend, like we were just chatting, should we do the protest or something? And it was just so spontaneous. And we meet at the night, and we were actually having beers at the pub, and we were calling upon our friends, like, can you come? Can you join us? Can you come? And in 2 hours, it has been actually a room full of people, our friends. We just started brainstorming about the protest, and okay, what should we call the protest? And the name was Easy to Resign.
Right. Explain to me.
Why is it easy to resign? Our Prime Minister has become really popular of his saying of, oh, it's really difficult to do this and really difficult to do that. So we played the word and reversed it into easy and used it into the protest to resign him.
You're putting a twist on his own words to hurt him. I suppose I can see the viral factor in that.
The first day of protest, and there was, we were at the squatter square, and there were almost like 30 or 40 people at the square, and it was nothing viral.
Major, no,
yes,
that's
nothing major.
Okay.
But it got already come up into a social media spectrum.
Okay.
And the first video about the protest had 2.2 million views.
Wow.
And the second one got 600,000 and 500,000. It came up. And
I think we need to contextualize by saying that Mongolia's got only 3.7 million people.
Yes. And almost all the people who got social media has watched this video.
And this is another commonality across the youth-led protests in Asia, how they mobilized through social media.
Definitely, I think if you look at the youth, they have engaged their counterparts in other parts of the world, especially the educated youth. They learn from one another. There's a lot of exchanges, student exchanges. In the past, we talk about a class movement, socio-economic class movement that unites people, that unites workers. But today, I think it's a generation kind of unity that we are seeing.
At the peak of the protest, how many people turned up?
It was almost more than 10,000 people.
Why do you think it caught on so quickly?
So there are lots of factors. For the Prime Minister's issue, during his term, there was all the index in Mongolia, like freedom index, corruption index, and democracy index. All the indexes were actually going down. And also there was income inequality was growing.
I want to make a note of the fact that the ousted prime minister is the millennial.
Yes. He was born
1980. He was born in.
So is it? Yes.
Is there a huge difference between millennials and Gen Zs?
It's about sense of justice, sense of freedom that we have actually grown up with. Because for millennials, they have actually born in a Soviet era. So their upbringing, their childhood, they have always known that there is a big bosses. But in our era, like I was born in 2000, and we have always had this freedom, and we have grown up with this democracy. Also the internet, we got this freedom of speech in the internet, and talking about the issues on our own terms. So that was the difference.
In the first half of the 20th century, Mongolia gained its independence from China with the support of the Soviet Union and became a communist country itself. Walking around town, signs of that heritage are still very visible. But the country made a surprisingly peaceful transition to democracy in 1990, after the youths back then occupied the same Subatar Square. One of that movement's leaders is Jargo de facto, now an economist and commentator. Were you surprised, though, that more than 30 years after your protests that brought the country democracy, young people would still feel the need to go out and protest on the same square.
I think it's quite normal in democracy. The young generation is so active because they are becoming to the age, they start to understand the world better, their own role deeper, and plus they are only responsible for themselves.
Do you think there's anything that's genuinely different about the Gen Z protest?
Yes, because problems are different. For a country like Mongolia, which is dependent on commodities, the distribution of mining wealth, it's very hard to be even with corruption, where licenses, permissions goes to who has money. The government officials give them. In this kind of situations, not everybody has really feeling that you are equally treated.
Why is it that people have had a vote, but not an accountable government?
People go regularly to elections. It is peaceful election, but it is schooled or political parties buying votes, influencing people with the short-term interests. They give handling somewhere cashes, etc., etc. When 1/3 of the country poor, it's easier to manipulate with the short-term interests of people.
When Mongolia transitioned to a democracy in 1990, the former Communist Party became the Mongolian People's Party. Today, it is still in power. Journalist Anand Termatogu explains to me how power is entrenched.
One of the issues we have in Mongolia's elections is that we don't give platforms to people who don't have the means to run in elections.
Some seats in the Mongolian parliament are awarded by party list. Voters vote for parties instead of individuals, and the winning parties get to pick who fills these seats.
It comes down to internal party dynamics. So the first people who were going to get seats were very rich people. So you can see that internal politics of the party system is based on clientism, again cronyism. We have so many people who are so rich and so wealthy, and all of our politicians are serving those people, are themselves businessmen.
Mongolia and Nepal have much in common. Both countries rank in the lower half of the Transparency International's Corruption Perception Index. Both have very young populations. The median age in Mongolia is just 27, and in Nepal, 25. Both countries have seen massive population growth in their capital cities due to rural-urban migration. The number of people living in Kathmandu has more than quadrupled since 1990 as farmers uprooted their families to flee from a civil war. In Ulaanbaatar, the population has seen a threefold increase during the same period, and the city simply couldn't expand its infrastructure quickly enough to accommodate the newcomers. This is many of the Gir districts on the outskirts of Ulaanbaatar. Now, a gir is a traditional Mongolian home that's essentially a rounded tent. It has no running water or indoor heating, and the winter in Mongolia is frigid. Temperature can drop to -30, so survival in a gir means burning cold day and night. Besides the lack of basic facilities, there's also a lack of jobs. While Mongolia's unemployment rate is relatively low, around 4.5%, almost half the jobless are in Ulaanbaatar. Do you know in May, like young people your age went to protest because they see the Prime Minister's children having expensive things on Instagram?
Бид нар одоо ингээд яг ингээд хуваараа юм хийгээд юу авах болох ч одоо яг салингийн оронд байгаа байхгүй нөө зээлээ төлөөл гэрж ирээсээ бидний татвар материал дээр ингээд томроод байгаа. Ерөнхийдөө бол айж байгаа.
Ер нь бол ажил олоход хэцүү болохоор ерөнхийдөө гадагшаа вэ гэсэн бодлоо.
Do you think the people who are running Mongolia are doing a bad job?
Ер нь амлалтаа ер нь биелүүлдэггүй л гэж боддог даа.
For many youths in Agir districts, the ticket out is an education and later a job in the city proper. But once they are there, life doesn't get much easier.
My God, you guys look like babies to me. And you have a child.
Tamilin Aryan Chuga, 20, and Chingun Ntsetsek, 19, are unusually young to be parents, even by Mongolian standards. Compared to other East Asians, Mongolians marry younger and have more kids, with each woman giving birth to close to 3 offsprings. That's a heavy burden when only one parent is working.
Нэрээр одоо нөгөө нэг энэ сарын түрээс өнгөрсөн сарын хатгаа дотоогоо штэ. Тэрийг одоо газ ойроо хугацаанд олохгүй.
Tamilin doesn't have regular employment, instead taking on odd jobs where he can.
Тоно. Пенсам нөө. Одоо ирээд ажиллах зөвж аавна гэсэн. Ах юм болоо. Тэгэн хідээс хүртлээ. 11. Цагийн 6,500.
That's less than $2.
Is that what these jobs usually go for?
Яг нэг ажилласаа хамаараад одоо зөөгч гэхэд ер нь бол арай цалин багтай байдаг. Барилга ер нь бол 100.
How many days do you work and how much money do you make in a month?
Гончаар саяас 500 гарна. Яг өдөр болгоно болж чадахгүй. Тэгээ нөө заримдаа нөө ажил олдохгүй өдөр. Тэгээл 10-аас 14 хоног чадвал ажиллана.
About a fifth of those aged 20 to 24 who have employment are like Tamilin, working in the informal sector. If we include agriculture, then about 4 in 10 youths are informally employed.
How much money, goes out every month?
Тэгэл ер нь тэр зэгтэй л гарсан. Төрөөсөн сая тий. Тэгээ нөө тог ус мустайгаа нийлээ.
At the same time, the cost of living steadily creeps up. Inflation in Mongolia has climbed from 4.6% in June last year to 8.8% this August. To see how this affects the young family, I'm going shopping with Chingun.
XL-ийн памперснаа болоо baby lobby. За. Тэрийг авч.
How long does this last?
2-7 хоног.
How much is it?
38.
Mongolia is a vast country, but most of its territories aren't arable. So other than meats, food has to be imported. With its weak currency, which hit record lows in September, the price of imports is increasingly unbearable.
Энэ 5-ыг төсөөлөд юм бол 12,500. Нийтдээ боллоо. Нийтдээ 21,600.
Now that youths in Mongolia, Nepal, and other parts of Asia have pushed for change, will their lives get any better? Gen Zs across Asia are unhappy with their lot, and they've reached for their phones, got organized, and demanded accountability from their leaders. But what happens now? Wulam Saihan was the leader of the Mongolian Gen Z protests that ousted a prime minister. But when I pressed him on whether he or his peers will lead, he was less committal.
The matter of the fact is that Mongolia is a democracy that has real and regular elections. Why couldn't you make a difference through an election to participate in electoral politics?
We need experience in order to become a people in charge of solving issues.
Okay.
So I don't think younger people should. They can, but I don't think younger people without any experience shouldn't come up to this stage and trying to solve everything themselves.
So the ousted prime minister is still an MP who's still relatively powerful inside his party, so he can come back. That's a possibility.
Yes, and I hope we wouldn't give him a permission. And if the next one that has come to this stage, gotten corruption issue, gotten public case that is injustice, that's actually showing his incompetence, we would come up again.
In Nepal, similar sentiments.
We don't want to stand on and gain votes. We want the person who is in power to do the right thing.
You don't want to participate directly in politics. Why not?
It was never about going to replace them with us, right? Because I'm not, many of us are not qualified for that position.
They are government servants and they will do everything for the nation. And if they don't do it, Gen Z will come back.
I feel that more can be done to engage the youth, even to have greater trust towards the youth. So leaders in their 60s and 70s, they could actually hand over leadership to the younger generation, trust them, give them the room to lead.
Thingun Sarasaihan is a first-term MP in the Mongolian parliament. At 28, she's the country's youngest legislator and a Gen Z herself.
Actually, Mongolia has made the constitutional change, so we wanted to improve our parliament and also strengthen our democracy. So in order to do that, we have increased the number of parliamentarians, which gave a lot of space for women and young people.
She's talking about the party list seats added in the most recent election, seats that are assigned to members by parties. In her case, the Democratic Party, without her having to run in a constituency herself. However, analysts say getting one of these seats still requires you to have the right connections.
You think that who looks like representation of Gen Z? They might actually be the characters, the party leaders installed in the system to manipulate Gen Z, the proportional seats. I sort of think that they are highly dependent on party leaders. This is a sort of new type of party dictatorship.
Thingun herself comes from a connected family whose business bids on government contracts to build urban infrastructure.
So when the protests happened in May, you were on the inside. People of your age are on the outside.
Yeah.
How did that make you feel?
I think that is what democracy should be doing. So the people's free voice should be raising up and giving signals to the parliament and as well as the government that where we should be changing and where we should be more aware of. And therefore, it was a good signal for everyone, so that it was like a wake-up call for everyone. So now we are encouraging to change the election law as well, so that it doesn't require that much money. So that will also open new gates.
Back in Nepal, I eventually tracked down a couple of Gen Zs who are considering running for office when elections are held in 6 months' time.
What are your plans?
If we still move forward in an unorganized way, in non-political, unorganized way, we cannot make an influence in the election. And the old political parties will take leverage of this unorganized approach. So the need of the time is that for the youths to get organized first. Once we get organized, then we'll think what to do about it. How many youths are we there to take the leadership? And if we were to make a political party, we have been ready to take part in politics since long ago. But who were ready to give us a chance? No one.
If you have it your way, what do you think Nepal will look like 10, 20 years from now?
in the next 5 to 10 years, we will make sure that there is enough employment in the country, enough industry. We need to make sure that the industrialists will be comfortable coming to Nepal and investing here. Without that, it's not possible.
For now, youth mobilization appears to have worked. In Indonesia, the legislator pay raise was scrapped. In the Philippines, an anti-corruption probe into flood projects has been launched. And in Nepal, the youths pin their hopes on their chosen government. They push the military and the president to appoint Sushila Karki as the interim prime minister. She's known for clamping down on government corruption during her tenure as Chief Justice.
This is an unusual government, so it is created by the pressure of the Gen Z group. They have to do everything possible to create the environment for the change. After 6 months, the new elected government will take over, but by that time, the laws will be amended, the institutions will be refurbished, and the environment will be created for the end of corruption and governance.
Responsible protest would be something that we kind of welcome. It just shows that they are interested and there's a sense of belief that they can still generate some form of change. On the other side of the spectrum, we have youths that are beginning to show signs of apathy, and they feel that they are hopeless. And once you feel that that you are not part of the system, it could actually trigger to bigger problems.
Gen Zs have clearly stated what they don't want in their countries and have been quite successful in getting rid of the symbols of the old in a short amount of time. But how to get their countries to a place where they want them to be is a different question that would take much longer to answer.